Welcome back, everyone. I'm Zell, and today we're taking apart the quiet carry. We're going to get a look at what's inside. All right, guys, the quiet carry looks to be a fairly simple knife, so it's got some issues, though, that I'm not too fond of. It's got a little bit of blade play, and well, we're just going to take it apart and see if we can't figure out why it's doing those things. Use our Scout Leather Company hex driver and get a good look at that. We've got, if I can get our focus in here, we've got good screws. Those are really nice screws. We'll put some Vibratite on those for Nick because this came by way of Nick. That would be Stazza23, and he was kind enough to send this up for us to get a look at. I don't know if he's got a video on his channel or not. I looked earlier and I didn't see one, but I can't imagine he'd send it up here without having a video himself already. Anyhow, that was weird. That screw did not there. I guess it is going to come out. Okay, so there we go. That's interesting. Come out of there, little screw. Stay together for a second. And this screw here, we have hole here, we have a D-shaped sleeve, and there's our little screw. We're going to put those back together a little bit just so we'll make sure and get the same two back together. And from here, it felt like this thing was going to come apart. So let's go ahead and lift it off. Now, there are some interesting things about this knife that I want you to see. It's kind of reminiscent of a Chris Reeve knife in a couple of respects, and there's a couple of other things that they've done very neatly. One, very small knife with a very robust stop pin. I would say that's overkill. I've seen a lot of knives with much heavier blades with smaller stop pins. But, you know, this knife does weigh over 3 ounces, and it only has about a 2.8-inch blade, so we'll talk about that in the review. I have some issues there, too. Here's what we have at the end of the lock bar, and this is interesting. I'll slide that off. Get a look at that's interesting, too. We'll get a look at it here in just a minute. Our lock interface is right there. That's okay. Chris Reeve has proved that it works, but still, that's different, we'll say. That is a stainless steel ball that has been pressed in about 2/3 of the way around into this piece of titanium. There's our detent pressed into the titanium in a very similar manner, except it's all the way around it. And we're D-shaped right here, always a good thing. Interesting that our little phosphor bronze washer is also D-shaped, but cool, because check this out. Whenever this goes in here, and you match it up, if I'd get it on camera, they have cut that bushing so that it doesn't get into the locking area. Very, very nice. Very interesting that they would go to those lengths, and we are going to leave that face setting up because I don't know if Staz has had this apart. It looks like he has, so we don't want to go goofing stuff up and getting things in the wrong way for him, but we are going to clean it up. Slide that guy off. That all cleaned up. Just wanted to check and see where that ball hit. It's kind of an interesting deal. Ball hits there on your lock interface. You can see the lock interface right there. The lock interface has been cut with probably a little 4-inch wheel or so, maybe smaller. I'm not good at reading radiuses, but that looks like probably cut with a 4-inch wheel. And I don't know exactly why we have this here. We'll check that out as we go along. Here's our backspacer, full titanium backspacer. Very nice as well. Like I said, we'll talk more in the review about this whole quiet carry idea and the size of the knife. And this is one place we can see that. Let's throw our bushing back up here and our let's put that back in and give ourselves just something for that knife to ride on, because I want you to see something. Now, this is either the greatest thing in the world for some of you or the worst thing in the world for others of you. We'll lay this in here too about where it goes. There's a lot of wasted space down here. Our standard measurement method. We're looking at, wow, it's more than I thought. Right around ½ an inch, maybe a little more, a little less. And that's what I saw when I first picked up the knife. We'll talk more about that in the review, but there it is visually, that there's a lot of wasted space in this handle. Could be good the other way though, because it will allow you to get a better grip on it, because it does have a reasonable grip length for such a small knife. Anyhow, we're gonna get, I'm still on acetone. You guys know the deal with that. Don't be using acetone on your titanium. Don't be using it on anything that is colored. Any kind of coatings, that sort of stuff. Acetone will dry that stuff out sometimes and make a huge mess for you. Just not fun. But for regular stainless and titanium screws and that such like, and you can even rub down the titanium with it if you need to, acetone works great. There we go, got them all cleaned up. And I'm going to go back with the Vibratite. There is our pocket clip. It is on there really good, so I'm not going to mess with that. We'll, just the screws we took out, I believe. So, you guys know the deal with the Vibratite. I'll put that old Vibratite on there, and we got 30 minutes to wait. So, man, that stuff's gummy. And that's how it does its thing. Where Loctite locks hard, this is more like putting a type of goo in between your threads. And it's Vibratite. That's its name implies what it's for. It's for shock places where things are going to be, you know, in a constant state of shock. Like whenever you flick a knife open, you get that shock on all the parts in the knife. And the Vibratite will flex a little bit where the Loctite doesn't. Loctite will just break free. And that's one reason that I put the Vibratite in these knives. There's our blade, if I can keep hold of it. Nice little clip point blade. I do like what they've done there. I'm not a big fan of the finish, but I do like the shape they've given it. Very nice. Anyhow, you guys know the drill. 30 minutes, and we'll be right back. It's absolutely amazing how fast 30 minutes can go whenever we're doing it with video and editing. Anyhow, let's get this guy back together, and it should, hopefully we'll get rid of that little bit of blade play, because that's really bugging me. This knife should not have blade play like that in it. And here's that cool deal with that D shape in our washer. All right, look at that. You got it cut out, misses that. Just perfect. All right. I'm going to use some 10-weight nano oil if I can find it. Right here. I had a fight with myself, and 10-weight side 1. I had considered using 5-weight, and I'd also considered using 85. Now, why would I do that? Now, this knife is constructed loosely like a Sabenza, with our ball here and the bearings are not really Sebenza-like, but I thought, well, you know, the Sebenza uses that really thick grease. Maybe that would work good here. But further contemplation told me that was stupid, and that the standard 10 weight oil is probably the best option. And hopefully it is. Now, it also told me that trying to use 5 weight was just silly because it'd run out. And I have some 5 weight nano oil, but I really rarely use it. Now, one thing to do, now we know that this side was against the blade whenever we took it apart. And I think Stazza has done some cleaning up here, but I'm going to put that in the other way. Why? Because there's a stamping ridge right there, and I don't want that stamping ridge right up against the blade. Maybe the wrong thing to do, but I hope not. Stazza can chew me out later if I did it wrong, or he can fix it. So, easy enough. Let's go back here. Get this screw in. I'm doing this slightly out of order from what you would normally do. Normally you would do the pivot screw first, but I'm doing that because I want that backspacer kind of in place. Now we can go back to the pivot screw and slide our pivot screw down in there, and hopefully that pivot screw will do a better job of staying where we set it now that it's got the Vibertite on it instead of the Loctite. That is another advantage to using the Vibertite. You can adjust that pivot and it'll stay where it's supposed to be. And that is always a beautiful thing. There we go. Loosen that one up just a bit to get that one in there, and that's okay. Get our screw down in there. Get that sleeve tightened up. I like that they used that D-shaped sleeve instead of a free spinning sleeve. I really wish that in the production world we would see more D-shaped sleeves or spline sleeves or something. Okay, so we are perfectly centered. Got good action, and it's loose as heck. So, go back to our T8. We got a lot of tightening to do there. Alright, now we're overly snug. Still, yeah, it's not, there we go. Still, as I look down in there, it's perfectly centered. Alright, let's check our blade play. Hey! We have almost eliminated the blade play. That's the deal with that Vibertite, letting you get that slightly better adjustment than Loctite will let you have. Just a little bit more fine on your adjustment. And it's not completely eliminated, but we have taken a lot of it out. And yeah, it's too tight there. So yeah, this knife is going to have just a smidge of blade play in it. Not great, but everything else worked out great, and that is what's inside the Quiet Carry Strand. And I really appreciate you guys hanging out with me and watching me deal with the Quiet Carry Strand. It's quite the interesting knife. Be sure and watch the full video of it. And you guys, I hope it was interesting. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time.